The Brian and Kenzie Show.
On Q101.
Brian and Kenzie on Q101. Time for Kenzie's Crimes, when she brings a crime to the table that's from the area, from Illinois, Chicago. Me and Case, the producer, don't have any idea about it, so we're all going to sit back and get around the campfire here and listen together as Kenzie brings it to us. And then maybe you've heard of it. Some of these crimes are very popular, and the best part about it is I always end up still learning something because Kenzie does
do a deep dive. You may have heard rumors.
Deep dive.
He said, she said, but now I said, okay?
Word.
Period.
All right. Well, go ahead, then. Let's get this going. I'm waiting. I'm ready to go.
Kathleen Savio was a 40-year-old woman who had 2 sons and was the third wife to former Bolingbrook Police Sergeant Drew Peterson. Things were looking up for Kathleen, who is on the cusp of a tense-filled financial battle with her ex-husband, the former Bolingbrook Police Sergeant. It was finally about to reach closure. That was until she was found dead in her bathtub on March 1st, 2004. The tub itself was dry, but her fingertips were pruny and her hair was wet with blood, and a cut was found on the back of her head. Police figured that she slipped and fell, and at some point the water had drained from the tub, and her death was ruled as an accidental drowning.
Can I just stop you for a second?
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're doing this because I do know the story, but however, there's so much to this story that it deserves a highlight to understand all that's going on. So go ahead.
This is the most time I've ever spent on one.
Yeah.
You know that clown trick where you pull scarves out of a hat? I'm like, good Lord. Every time I read an article, I had to revisit this a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Years later, her husband, Drew Peterson, moved on and married a 4th wife. At the age of 49, he married 19-year-old Stacy Peterson. Stacy did not have the easiest childhood. Her parents split, and her mom, eerily enough, had gone missing when she was 14. She began dating Peterson at the age of 17 with her father's permission. I don't get that. I gotta be honest.
Because she was 19?
Well, no, she was 17.
Oh.
And got her father when they started dating.
Yeah.
And you think, as a dad, this is a prime time to go, no. But whatever.
It's kind of...
You would be amazed at how many dads in history, though, have said,
Yes.
Sure. He's like, you got a 17-year-old we can train? I don't know. Whatever.
I mean, he's not Steven Tyler of Aerosmith. I mean, it's a cop from Bolingbrook.
Because that makes it okay,
No,
Brian.
no. None of it makes it okay. What I'm saying is, Steven Tyler, maybe the dad's going to get some money out of it if he's an a-hole still, but he did that. Like, what are you getting out of a Bolingbrook cop dating your 17-year-old
ticket
daughter?
problem like you.
You know what? Well played.
Annie Huskies. Well, Peterson was still married to Kathleen Savios when he started dating. So the third wife he was still married to. He started dating Stacy. The couple lived at 6 Pheasant Chase Court in Bolingbrook, Illinois, which was less than a mile from where he was living with his current wife at the time, Savio, Kathleen. Together, they had 2 children, and then Stacy legally adopted Kathleen's children after she was ruled a drowning in the tub. And she was very good to those kids. She adopted them, treated them like they were her own, and they became very close. And she was actually in the middle of completing her nursing degree at Joliet Junior College. So even though there was this messiness, she seemed like she had a really good heart and super good to the kids. It was trying to complete things, okay?
Yeah.
Now, Sunday morning, October 28th, 2007, Drew said he woke up at 11 to find that his wife of 4 years, 23-year-old Stacy Peterson, had already gone off to help paint a friend's house. Now, Stacy's sister, Cassandra Kales, had been trying all morning and then through the rest of the day to get a hold of Stacy, but was unsuccessful. After not being able to reach Stacy the entire day, she went to their home. Neither Drew or Stacy was there. One of the children answered the door and told her that they had had a big fight that morning and hadn't seen them since.
Ugh.
Cassandra called the Illinois State Police to report her sister missing at 4 a.m. on Monday. Now, Sergeant Peterson is cooperating fully with the state police, said Lieutenant Ken Keppel. He was also a cop with the Bolingbrook Police Department, and he told the Tribune on October 31st that obviously he's distraught. Drew's mother, Betty Morphy, told the newspaper, "My son is very upset. She's a lovely girl. They get along beautifully, and they're loving and kind together." Now, Drew Peterson, the husband, told the Tribune that he had last spoken to Stacy on the phone at 9 p.m. on the 28th, and that she said she was leaving him. So I don't know why he'd go ahead and contradict his mom. It's not a great idea. He said, "I believe she's with someone else, and I believe she's safe."
Liar. Liar.
Her family said,
That was a weird add-on, by the
"I
way.
think she's safe."
She's with someone else, and I'm sure she's very
it's like
safe.
when my son Tristan goes, "Listen, there's not a broken vase upstairs." I'm like, Wyatt, Lead me upstairs immediately. Immediately. Now, her family said they found that highly unlikely that she would just run out because she was the mother of 2 young children and then had adopted the other 2, so 4 kids depended on her, right? Now, on October 29th, Stacy's aunt, Suzanne Robinson, told the Tribune that 2 days before Stacy disappeared, Stacy had told Drew she wanted a divorce. She said he was very jealous and very controlling. She said that he followed her, tracked her with GPS on her cell phone, called her constantly. Now, Brian, does this ring bells on how you treat Megan?
I do track her on Find My Phone, but this is back in the day before. It took a little more technology to do it than just easy, like adding her on my phone.
Yeah.
I don't think I follow her. I mean, it's up to something in the house.
Like a puppy dog around the house. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Now, Drew Peterson said that his wife probably wasn't using her cell phone because she knows you can find people with a cell phone. So that's why she wasn't using it. Every resource the authorities had were dispatched, tracker dogs, drivers, obviously different police officers on the case. And the same day, state police officer called her case a potential homicide, okay? On the same day they finally announced, we think something's going on, she didn't run away, less than 2 weeks after she disappeared. Now, the Will County State's Attorney Office officially reopened the investigation into Kathleen's 2004 death and had her body exhumed.
Wow.
So they were like, we're starting to think Stacy died, and now let's look at Kathleen's accidental death.
Right.
We're going to pause right there. This story had a recent update as of April 4th.
Right on. In about 3 minutes here, Kenzie's Crimes, we come back with the conclusion on Brian and Kenzie on Q101.
The Brian and Kenzie Show.
On Q101.
The Brian and Kenzie Show.
On Q101.
Brian and Kenzie on Q101, Kenzie's Crimes, Part 2, the conclusion of the Drew Peterson story that Kenzie is laying out. And I know a lot of people know pieces of this story, but this is really a deep dive in getting everything.
Now, Drew Peterson, just as a quick recap, if you're joining us, he was a former police sergeant in Bolingbrook. He had 4 wives total over the course of his life. His third wife, Kathleen, had kind of a mysterious death. They said it was a drowning, but they decided to exhume her body after his 4th wife went missing. And that's where we are. Kicking you off with a quote, "I'm convinced she was the victim of murder. Who done it?" That was the pathologist, Dr. Michael Bannon, who firmly believed that Kathleen, the 3rd wife, like there was some foul play in there.
After they exhumed the body, so they exhumed it, they saw that, he said, yeah, she was murdered.
Yes. Now, the defense attorney, Glasgow, concurred that there was evidence that Kathleen had been the victim of homicide, and it was staged to look like an accident. Now, this is crazy. Kathleen's sister, Sue Doman, said, she told me that she was afraid. She told me that he would kill her and that it would look like an accident.
Good Lord.
She had called her sister and said that.
When people say something like that if I end up dead and it's going to look like an accident, listen to them.
That's a good tip.
Just a new tip I want to add to the thing.
Way to go, Brian.
Because so many people, you hear about this in these shows and your Kenzie Crimes that they say this and no one does anything.
I know.
You say, like, if it happens, maybe try to do something before it happens. Try.
Like I've said, if I go missing, I'm definitely in the pond behind our house. I've said that.
It's on record.
Me and Casey are going to get golf balls out of the pond, and you, if that happens.
Golf balls first?
Well, whatever comes up.
Okay.
Do you ever see those people magnet fishing? We're going to hope you're wearing like a studded belt buckle that day. We can get you out of the water.
Unbelievable.
One of her metal outfits, yeah.
Okay. In November 2002, Kathleen had written to the Will County Assistant State Attorney's Office saying he knows how to manipulate the system. His next step will be to take my children or kill me. All this evidence was available, and it was ruled as an accident. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Now, Stacy's family, meanwhile, was appalled at how Peterson, who was suspended from the Bolingbrook Police Department in September 2007 for an alleged, quote-unquote, serious lack of judgment during a police pursuit. He had to resign November 20th with his full pension of $6,068 a month.
A month?
And he was behaving so lightly in the situation, and they were disgusted, right?
Our pension's not that good.
Now,
not even close.
I don't think we have one.
We deal with the union when you.
Do we?
Yeah, we do.
No one's told me anything.
Brian's really concerned about it. I've heard a lot about the pension.
Oh boy,
You're vested in 5 years.
You have to break down our pension right now, Brad?
I'm just saying $6,600 a month, that's a lot more than I got coming, and now I realize I'm going to work till I'm dead. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, if you become, I think this position's open at Bolingbrook. The mom was quoted saying, "This man doesn't take it seriously. It's becoming a joke in front of media," and it really was. Here's his beautiful young fourth wife of a cop whose third wife died under suspicious circumstances, vanishing into third air. Everyone's eating it up, and it became way too much entertainment than how serious this really is. And he was eating up the attention because really becoming untouchable at this point, right? So Peterson's defended himself with this quote: "I was a loving husband, okay? I was. What can I say?" That was it.
Asked and answered, if you ask me.
How could you not believe him? Anyways.
Left nowhere to go.
I mean, that ties up any loose ends right there. So toward the end of November 2007, a then unidentified relative of Peterson's told a friend that he had helped Drew carry a 4-foot-long plastic blue barrel that was warm to the touch and seemed to weigh about 120 pounds. He carried it out of Drew and Stacy's bedroom and loaded it to Drew's SUV and then drove it to a relative's home.
He didn't ask what was in it?
No, and he told a friend, I wonder if that was bad. And then that friend called the police. Now, these people aren't named, so that's why it's worded weirdly. So whatever. And then Drew's defensive team said that family member has serious psychological issues, and the entire story's made up.
God.
So we don't know about that. Now, Peterson's stepbrother, this is crazy, Tom Morphy, said that Drew had called him and said that Stacy was cheating and something needed to be done. He asked Morphy, his stepbrother, if he loved him enough to kill for him. Morphy said no. And Peterson...
Good answer, by the way.
Yeah. If the answer is no to that, do you love me enough to rent a storage locker for me instead? And he couldn't because he didn't have an ID on him.
Oh, boy, this is not the guy.
He goes, "I never thought for a minute he was going to kill her. I thought he was going to kill the guy she was cheating with." Also bad.
Killing in general is bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which person's getting killed.
Not do it.
Yeah.
But Brian, do you love me enough to kill for me?
For you?
Yeah.
No.
What about a storage locker?
I'll get you a storage locker.
Thank you, Brian.
You're so cheap. No, you wouldn't. Fortunately, the grand jury was not convinced that Peterson had anything to do with Stacy's disappearance. This often happens when a body can't be found. In fairness, you got to place a body with it. However, Kathleen's death had officially been reclassified as a homicide. It's no longer an accident, and things weren't looking good for him. At the time of this, wife missing.
Yep.
Ex-wife has now been reopened as a homicide. He started dating 23-year-old Christina Rains, who had 2 children, and she moved in with him. Case, you were struggling to get people to date you all the time.
And I haven't killed anybody.
I know.
Yeah, as far as we know, you have a nice track record.
I'm a pretty okay guy, all things considered.
Also, and I'm not judging because I don't want people judging me, but he wasn't like Brad Pitt.
No.
You know what I mean? Like the women lining up to date him. And
He was making over $6,000 a month, though.
Well, he was. Yeah, his pension's better than mine. God.
Now, in May 2008, Peterson was arrested on a felony weapons charge. Investigators found a gun and confiscated it. He, of course, pleaded not guilty. He was indicted and arrested for Kathleen's murder, finally, May 7th, 2009. His bail was set for $20 million. They weren't playing with this guy again,
Good.
okay? But,
They heard about his pension.
You can go to the ATM and get that out.
And then the judge decided...
Should make a quick stop.
The judge then decided to get rid of bail and say he has to be in jail for the duration of the trial.
Good.
So finally, September 2012, Peterson was found guilty of murder. Peterson was sentenced to 38 years in prison for Kathleen's murder, the third wife, right? Now, ever since he has been trying to overturn that conviction, even to this day, he's working on that. However, even if Drew's conviction for Kathleen's murder is overturned, he won't be getting out of prison because he was sentenced to 40 years behind bars for plotting to kill the prosecutor in the murder trial, which he accidentally openly did because he was soliciting for someone to kill him. So even if he overturns Kathleen, he still has to do 40 years because of the other guy he tried to kill. Well, he was saying he was innocent of killing Kathleen.
I mean, again,
it's tough to say you wouldn't kill somebody when you tried to kill the guy saying you killed somebody. This is the update. So if you knew all that information, as of April 4th this year, Cassandra Stacy's sister believes that she has found Stacy's remains. Okay.
Oh, wow.
She sent a remote-operated vehicle equipped with sonar to the bottom of an Illinois canal where she claims she found the remains of her sister. A still image from a video recorded by the remote-operated vehicle appears to show a skull and several bones beneath the water of the canal. She says she's been following a female body since 2007 down the canal. She went and got this equipment because she was not really happy with what the police officers were doing. And in 2007, 19 days after Stacy's disappearance, is when she first found this body. It was there for 3 days. Law enforcement did nothing, she claimed. She was threatened to be arrested if she acted on getting the remains herself. Then it disappeared because it's in the canal, so it moved around. So she's been following him for a long time. She believes these are the remains that she had found all the way back in 2007, and she's really not happy with the lack, I suppose, of enthusiasm from the police. I'm trying to word it really nicely.
That's a good way to say it.
I'm working really hard on that.
Yeah.
She said she's ready to go. She just has to find the right people and the right resources and equipment. So she's kind of started a GoFundMe online to raise money to go exhume the remains from the Illinois Canal. This, again, is April 4th, like less than a month ago. She says that her goal is only to offer her sister peace and has nothing to do with the suspect in her disappearance, because in her mind, he's already behind bars.
Right.
Isn't that insane?
The Brian and Kenzie Show.
On Q101.
The Brian and Kenzie Show.
On Q101.
Brian and Kenzie on Q101. And to get your takeaways, Lauren coming in, more chances to get to that Minnesota Yacht Club Festival. You heard Chili Peppers a little bit ago. And they'll be on that bill with the Offspring. And you get to Riot Fest as well. So Lauren's got at least that coming up. And a hell of a lot of entertainment. So you check in with her. You communicate with Lauren at 312-591-8300. First, we'll get to our takeaways here. Case, what do you got?
Well, we had Brian check in from Oak Park. His takeaway is that according to this Brian Haddad, the man sitting across from me, bestiality is just another word for a good time.
Okay, that's out of context, but,
But not wrong. That was the most delayed bell I've ever heard.
And Double Features Mike takeaway. The first time you see the bottom half of a woman, it's terrifying. Well, listen, these things, you have to really hear the whole context of these stories and conversations. How do you do that, Case?
Well, the Brian and Kenzie podcast, which you can listen to on Spotify, Apple Music, the Q101 app, wherever you listen to audio when you're not listening to the radio is where the Brian and Kenzie podcast can be found. And today, Brian told us a story. I've known you for a number of years, Brian. This is one of the best stories you've ever told about how your neighbor introduced you to womanhood. I would highly, highly recommend listening to that on the Brian and Kenzie podcast, as well as Kenzie's Krimes from today, where she shed new light, an update on the Drew Peterson story. Really, really interesting stuff there.
Kelly had one more takeaway about that, saying, Kelly, my takeaway is a true friend won't help you commit murder, but will rent a storage locker for you.
And you'd rent a storage locker for me.
For you, I'd do that.
Man, that's really nice to hear.
I love you.
The Brian and Kenzie Show.
On Q101.